So quite a while. As Janice said, we have a lot of tenure at GENEX, which I think speaks volumes to the company.
All right. So I'll be fast with this. At the end, if anything I miss, you guys add. Any questions, you guys feel free to ask. My goal today pretty much is to give you information that eventually will come up. Whether or not you use GENEX for these services, my second goal obviously is that you give us a shot. And you'll know exactly what we do for you by the end of this. If you have a pen and paper, you're welcome to take notes. I read something that you remember more when you write something down. I actually don't believe that. I think it's because you actually heard it in the first place, so you can pretend like you're writing. That's fine with me. There's three main phases, and I always say when, business-wise, maybe this is selfish. Whenever somebody's presenting, I think, what can you do for me? I think that's a pretty fair question. When it comes to using GENEX, there's three main phases you'll find. The first is the intake and sending referrals to us. I would tell you my goal is to make this as fun as possible, but that's never fun, so my goal is to make this as least painful for you as possible, and I think we have a good way to do that. The second thing is finding you a top-notch nurse or vocational counselor so that your file is being moved forward. You're happy with that. And the third thing I want to talk about briefly is customer service, so that you know that we are truly a team and that you can reach out to us anytime. Keeping your business is our concern. We want you to be happy. GENEX is a company. We've been in business for 35 years. We're out of Wayne, Pennsylvania. We're strictly in the managed care and disability market. We don't handle claims. We have accreditations, all kinds of certificates. Personally, my goal is pretty much if you use GENEX and you use this again, then you're accredited by Goss, Lindsey. That's really all I care about. And our goal is a team so that you're happy with what we do. Our products and services, we have a big list of things that we do. Josie asked it, and I made this especially for you guys. I narrowed it down to just the things that we can provide for you. So if you want to take a quick peek at the handout, Michelle, you'll notice that there's 4 services, but there's really 3. The first is in bold, which is field case management. As Janice mentioned, we're nationwide with case management. We have over 100 alone in California, so multi-language, Spanish-speaking all over. We handle rushes. The second thing you'll see is a 24/7 catastrophic care. Now there's a phone number here, the 877-391. The reason this is important, this is 24/7. So weeknights, weekends, if you have an employer that calls you or you as a supervisor get something that you need after hours, we do staff after hours. Janice and I too, you can call. Well, my cell phone's here. We're involved in this staffing. So just knowing that's important. It's the same line you would use to do a normal referral. Most of the stuff you send is going to be via email. And Josie, we talked about the easiest way that I found for you guys to refer, it's IVOS, the system, is to go to the claim detail screen and hit print screen. When you open up an email, paste that in the email. Literally Control V. That's everything we need. You don't have to fill a form out. Under the actual image, if it's for a nurse, if you can just type the doctor name and phone number so we can make sure we're getting a nurse in that location. If it's for a job analysis, which are the next two, or Ergo eval, if you can include just the employer contact. That way, obviously, we're going to schedule this with the employer. That's going to be everything we need for referring. I have this so I don't forget anything. One other thing that's important, if you want to write this down, it might help you. If you have a claimant that moves out of state, we have nurses that I mentioned nationwide. We do a lot of this. Email me. Say it's a random town, city, you need a specialist that you don't know who takes work comp. Usually we have someone in the area that can help you and we'll recommend. This is free of charge. If you want to staff with us on a task assignment, we're happy to negotiate because a lot of times these are out-of-state rates. We do that. We can talk about pricing. It's not very much, but just so you know, we do a lot of that.
Find the doctors, the nurse can help us find a doctor in the state.
Right. We recommend doctors. And then the second step would be if you, especially somewhere like Texas, they don't want to take California rates, we'll find them and negotiate rates so that you just agree or don't agree. The last thing I want to talk about, which is probably my favorite part after the X's and O's, and I think I went over everything with referrals. One, don't get confused, by the way. I have 3 numbers and 3 emails. The reason I have so many is because when you have a rush, you need to get a hold of somebody. At GENEX, I always say this, we have an extra kid in our cell phone because that is how we survive on these rush files. If you can't get a hold of me, this top number is answered live all day long. Julie Gaddis is Janice's, works in the orange office. She's great. I just want to make sure you have more rather than less. It doesn't matter who you use. As a team, the tenure we have on our team, and Janice mentioned this is important because maybe there's something strange about us, but we like staffing rush referrals. This is a dynamic job. I say this because we've been at GENEX a long time, and I mean, there's been many times we've been on the phone late at night staffing things, and it's a fun process for us. We welcome the challenge. And we're on the panel with other vendors. We understand that. We actually like it because our favorite kind of work is when you call us because you want to use GENEX. And having said something like that, I say it all the time, living up to the challenge of, there's my phone, you call me anytime, I'll get back to you, we'll staff it. GENEX is excellent at this. In 7 years, I've seen one same day not get staffed in 7 years. The only question is how far they have to drive, and obviously it's up to you to approve that. But that's the kind of service that we give as a team. It's funny, I say there's some things that are acceptable. If you have a nurse in an area and don't use GENEX because you love that nurse, first of all, don't tell me that nurse's name unless you want me to try to hire her, because we will try to get good nurses. That's what makes our company. If you don't like me personally because I look like Mr. Clean, I can even accept that. But when it comes to our team and working our butt off to staff your files, that's not an excuse for us. We really do give it our all, and we enjoy it. And I think it's important that you guys know that. One of the keys, and I bring this up because it's so important, is communication. A lot of times in life, I know for me, I work with vendors, especially when I know them, I don't bring up the little issues in the beginning. We want to hear those. If there's a nurse that isn't getting you what you need, I mean, Janice and I, our team, we work directly with them. Don't let those things get bad. We actually have an example of somebody in this room I worked with for many years at GENEX that had a challenging customer. We had a few hiccups from time to time. I won't say any names, Ursula, but I actually appreciate that because you know that's what keeps us on our toes, and we need to hear that stuff. It's the customers that don't say anything that you never know, that you just don't know. We can't give you the service, so help us help you with service. I just think that's so important. Our ultimate goal with staffing these files, and this is, you guys tend to have specific areas that you cover, and that makes it so much easier than having the whole state because you'll get to know the nurses. I guarantee we have a nurse that you'll like, and if we don't get it right the first time, we'll find one. And the nice thing about having a territory is once you find that nurse, you're good. You're comfortable with those files, especially the TCMs, you know who you're requesting. My final thing I want to bring up is do not be afraid of task assignments. So much of the benefit comes from that initial assessment at the doctor, from you're talking an attorney possibly wavering them away from that, all these things. If you ever want to know costs or have questions, I really like that because a good nurse will tell you I can make an impact or I can't. But that one-time assessment is just, instead of just putting someone on a file and the employer doesn't know how long a nurse is going to be on it. That's my personal recommendation. I think that's everything. I've made these non-magnetized so you can put a thumbtack in them, you can put tape on them, put them wherever you want. Sure, you can tape them to your shirt if you need to. And I think that's everything. Janice or Shadell, is there anything you want to add?
I think you covered everything.
I think you covered it. I think the key that Goss keeps honing in on is communication too. I mean, we give out our cell phones. We don't, hide behind something, an email. We're old school. I mean, pick up the phone. We answer our phones. I mean, we don't hide from you. If there's an issue, we'll get right back to you. And I think I learned that at Keenan. I remember when I was going through the training, he said that Keenan was the Nordstrom of TPAs. So, the customer is always right. We strive to make sure that happens, and that's always resonated with me since way back in the day.
Well, things haven't changed at Keenan, so it's still the same.
Is it? Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. It stuck with me all those years. And I was just in the Torrance office, and, it has the same feel. It's like, the customer comes first.
Yep. And Janice, by the way, if you didn't finish, Janice is the branch manager. So for all of your nurses in this area, because where your territory is, they're going through her. She's staffing them. She's the one working with me and you indirectly.
And we have supervisors that are RNs that all the nurses report to nationally. So we have 4 in my branch, do a wonderful job. So if you have an issue, you can certainly bring it up to Goss, myself, and then I usually have the supervisor handle it directly with the claims person or the TCM.
I have one quick question. How will the nurse communicate with the examiner? Is it via email, they send a report?
Yeah, what'll happen is, most referrals, I'm guessing you guys will email. Within 4 hours, sometimes 8, depending, you should see an email with a confirmation. It will have the nurse assigned, their email, their cell phone, as well as the supervisor. We like to include both. In case it's an emergency, you need to get a hold of the nurse right away. You can call the supervisor. They're always talking. And that's immediately, pretty quickly. From there, the correspondence is via email. If you do want a phone call when the nurse first receives the file via email, I would write that in there. That way they'll call you to get an assessment of what's going on. Otherwise, it will strictly be email for the most part. But you'll have the numbers if you want to reach out.
And is that your preference? Most people prefer email in this day.
Yeah.
And if it's anything critical, they can pick up the phone.
Yeah, and they will.
And one request I forgot to mention is if you have a same day, or even say it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you have an 8 a.m. next day rush, I mean, if you don't mind calling me, if you send it in, that way we can get on it right away. Usually just same day, but especially it never hurts to call on a rush. For non-rushes, email is absolutely fine. Any other questions? Or vote counseling, ergonomic evals, we are contracted with Keenan for that. We have a great team. We're staffed statewide or nationwide, same process, and the rates are pre-negotiated.
Thank you. You have a question? Anybody has a question?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a couple extras. There's a few extra. We're gonna leave them.
Yeah, we'll leave them here.
Leave them just in case you need extra. Yeah.
You mentioned you were going to add products. When I mentioned home health, like skilled nursing visits, and you don't do that, but you're going to add it? Or?
No, we won't be doing it at home. Not that I know of.
That's smart. Just personal preference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be involved in that. But I had to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't.
No.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
I
so much.
appreciate it.
That's
great. I brought some